Now, I am a firm believer in freedom of speech, especially in art, pushing the boundaries, reveal truths. However, there is a line, especially when it comes to speech that causes harm or displays acts of violence that break the law of ethics. So today on Top 5 Scary Videos, I'm going to be counting down our list of the top 5 scary horror movies that are illegal. Before we begin though, be sure to stick around until the end of the video where I'll be responding to some of your comments. And with that, let's jump in. Coming in at 5, Cannibal Holocaust. Released in 1980 and directed by Ruggero Deodato, this movie centers on a rescue mission into the Amazon rainforest, which results in a surprising discovery when a professor stumbles across lost film shot by a missing documentary crew, whose goal was to study the region's indigenous cannibalistic tribes. Now, Cannibal Holocaust was one of the very first found footage horror movies, which actually led to the director being arrested for suspicion of murder. Now, what makes this movie so disgusting is the fact that actual animals were killed on screen, making the fake deaths of the humans more believable. In order to sell the illusion, the actors' contracts prevented them from appearing in any other TV shows or movies for a year after its release, in order to sell the fact they were supposed to be dead. Now, this eventually came back to haunt the director, who was arrested by Italian authorities shortly after the movie's premiere in Milan on charges of obscenity and suspicion of making a snuff film. The director was forced to demonstrate the movie's special effects, as well as confirm that the actors were in fact still alive. The real animal killings, however, still led to the film being banned by the authorities, a judgment that was echoed by Australia, Norway, Finland, and New Zealand. Coming in at number 4, Salo, or 120 Days of Sodom. This movie, released back in 1975, centers on a group of fascists who round up 9 adolescent boys and girls and subject them to 120 days of physical, mental, and sexual torture. The movie as a whole is a metaphor for fascism and abuse by the state. The movie is perhaps one of the most disturbing and horrifically explicit movies of all time. It's the type of movie you watch on accident and never return to again. You may even talk to a therapist about it, like me. For decades after its release, it was banned in the United Kingdom and New Zealand, and was mostly banned in Australia up until 2010. Now, although it was never explicitly banned in the United States, it was involved in the arrest of the owners of a Cincinnati-based bookstore in 1994, after police bought the movie as part of a questionable sting operation. The case, however, was dismissed before a court could determine if the film violated obscenity laws. As of right now, the movie is available in a high-definition transfer from the Criterion Collection, but I implore you not to watch it. Honestly, it shook me to my core. Coming in at number 3, The Human Centipede 2 Full Sequence. The Human Centipede 2 is notorious for being one of the most disgusting films of all time, not to mention having one of the most foul-smelling concepts, as well as a decreasing level of artistry throughout the installment. However, number 2 takes the cake for being one of the most abhorrent and nihilistic movies I have ever watched in my entire life. It is beyond gross out, it is mentally and emotionally scarring. The film centers on a depraved man who goes on a killing spree in order to recreate the experiment portrayed in The Human Centipede. The movie itself was so extreme that the film was initially refused classification by the BBFC, saying, I quote, "No amount of cuts would make the movie acceptable enough to be exhibited or sold." They also raised the possibility that the film could be in violation of the nation's Obscene Publications Act, which the director Tom Six responded to, I quote, "Apparently I made a horrific horror film, but shouldn't a good horror film be horrific? My dear people, it is a f***ing movie." The movie was eventually approved for release after undergoing 2.5 minutes of cuts. The movie as it stands is banned in New Zealand, however the third movie wasn't banned anywhere at all, surprisingly. And I think that's just because it was Coming in at number 2, NECromantic 1 and 2. Directed by Jörg Buttgereit and released in 1987, NECromantic follows a street sweeper who cleans up after grisly accidents, and after he brings home a full corpse for him and his wife to enjoy sexually, he is dismayed to discover his wife prefers the corpse over him. Savage. Now, this film, aside from our number 1 point, is perhaps the most disgusting movie out there, with the movie containing acts of necrophilia and animal cruelty in abundance. Now, unlike unlike a lot of movies on our list, these disturbing moments had a purpose, but still, it was tough to swallow, considering these scenes of sex with corpses were used to creatively further a story of elite oppression and class struggle. Due to this, the movie was banned in Iceland, Norway, Malaysia, Singapore, New Zealand, Finland, Australia, and a handful of provinces in Canada. Now, the film itself was actually made specifically to protest government censorship, but despite this, the movie faced no real opposition in its home country of Germany until sales became restricted a few years later. Although the reaction from German authorities to the first NECromantic was relatively muted, the release of the sequel NECromantic 2 certainly made up for it, with the authorities raiding theaters that screened the movie and confiscated prints, making any possession of the film a punishable act. And finally coming in at number 1, a Serbian film. Released in 2010, a Serbian film follows an aging porn star who's struggling to provide for his family. So he agrees to make one last film. Unbeknownst to him, it contains themes of pedophilia, necrophilia, and may end with his death. A Serbian film has over time gained a reputation worldwide for being one of the most extreme and disturbing horror movies ever made, and I can confirm it is horrific. Some of the most horrific moments include the assault of a newborn baby, sex with corpses, and the assault of the protagonist's own child, and that is me putting it tamely. This film is absolutely revolting and should be witnessed by no one. Saying that, it is not surprising in the slightest that it has been banned in Germany, Norway, Brazil, Australia, New Zealand, Malaysia, Spain, and Singapore, with the countries that allowed for the movie's release requiring the movie to undergo censorship cuts, and a lot of them. Following a Serbian film's ban in Spain, the director of a film festival faced criminal charges for daring to show the movie, with the accusation being that the screening constituted exhibition of child pornography. The case was such an overreach in general that the film's director claimed, I quote, "Those prosecutors have no clue what child pornography actually means," and added that the sequences weren't made to be arousing in any way, but to depict the pure horror and brutality of innocence being ruthlessly defiled. Fair point, but still, the film is too extreme for most people, including me. Well, there we have it. Do you guys agree with our list? Were there any illegal horror movies that we missed? Leave us all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below, and perhaps we can do a part 2. Before I go though, I just want to respond to a few comments from one of our last videos. Top 5 scariest Lovecraftian monsters that can end the world. Michael Waller said Lucy is Nyarlathotep and she is merely playing with us as if we were Legos. Woe is the world when she inevitably gets bored with humanity. Cold hard truth. I would tremble if I were you. Marcus Johnson said the SCP, only known as Lucy, has breached her containment and has started gathering followers. The world has become hers. Well, the world was always mine. Don't forget it. Jin Jam said, I wonder how many references to Lucy being a Lovecraftian horror is going to be in this episode comments. A lot. And I mean a lot. And on that note, if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another scary vid. And until next time, see you later. Released in 1980 and directed by Ruggero Deodato. Ruggero Deodato. Coming in at number 4, Salo or 120 Days of Sodom. Sodom. Woe is the world when she inevitably... Salo or 124... 24. Just 20. Just 120. You know. Just 120. It's fine.